Hello everyone, it is Christine here and I am back for Stitchmas, where I am sharing Christmas crafts as well as lovely little things that are coming my way as part of Advent. So today I'm going to show you how to make this sweet little hanging drum decoration, like the little drummer boy's drum, and how you can use braids and trims, some basic calico or basic fabrics, and some little scraps of Christmas or other festive looking fabrics to make a cute little drum yourself. So the idea is to give you something where you can use the materials that you have, and I'm sure you'll probably have things around that you can repurpose and use. So let me show you what you need. So you're first of all going to need a tube of some sort. I'm using a relatively sturdy wrapping paper tube. This is where I'm going to try and not cut off my hands. And so just make the drum whatever sort of size you want it to be. I think that's a pretty good size for my drum. It always takes a little bit just to get started. This isn't one of our good knives, so it's just a crafty knife. I'll put that aside so we don't do any injuries. We don't want to be calling the ambulance tonight. So you want it to be pretty level. It's not perfect, but it will. I think it will do the job. Pick whichever end is best for your top. And so we're then going to want to get some calico fabric. Or you can use whatever you want, but I like the calico because it almost looks like the surface of the drum itself. I'm going to get my friction marker and I am going to draw around my circle twice. Once and then a second time, leaving enough of a distance between it. Like that. So these friction markers are raised with heat, but it's actually not going to mash it because this will be on the other side. Just cut it out with a bit of a border around it. Cut between the two pieces. And then I'm just going to cut around and leave just a bit of a margin around it, which is what we're going to use to adhere it down onto our tube. So we're going to be doing a combination of a little bit of stitching, although it could all be done with glue, and a little bit of gluing. So I'll sort of give you both options. And you could obviously do more embroidery on the fabric that's going to go on, like the fabric that goes on the sides if you wanted to, or you can just use some pretty fabric that you like the look of already. So I'm just going around and putting snips just to where the circle shape is, or just a little bit sort of beyond that circle shape. I'll do one. I'll do the other now, just because then we'll be getting some gluing happening, and by then my fingers might be getting a little bit goopy. So we might get all our bits ready first, and then we'll get our glue happening. So I was working on another Christmas craft for you yesterday, but it just wasn't working. I was trying to adapt an idea I'd seen done with wallpaper, vintage wallpaper, and adapting it to fabric, but I think the design's a little bit floopy, and I've tried to adapt the design, but nope, not working. So I'm not going to show you something that's not going to be fun and a good outcome for you. So that one got scrapped. So instead, yesterday you got to see my Advent find from Hard Rubbish collection, and in fact I'm going to be using something from that tonight, which is putting it straight into action. So that's the top and the bottom of the drum. Basically we're going to be putting it on and then sticking it down to form the drum surface on both ends. And then I want to get some of my nice little fabric, and I really like this one because it's got beautiful gold and green and other colours on it. So what width do we want that to be? I might even use my ruler width, because then I know I'm getting a straight edge. And again, I will use my friction marker, but I might turn my fabric upside down. And I'll put a book underneath so that, oops, I'm using my trusty stitchery book. I think that edge is pretty straight, but I can probably just make it a smidge straighter. Yeah, that's all right. I will cut down that side first. And if you don't have material, you could equally use paper for this if you've got some beautiful paper. So just trying to do fabric-y things, because many of you who are watching are stitchy, fabric-y people. But it's nice to have some crafts that are a bit quicker to do, easier to do. Don't require a lot of stitching. But as I say, you could go to town if you wanted to embroider on this fabric before you actually put it on. So that's going to be a great, perfect, and that will be enough length in it. I'll just cut it off with a little bit to turn the end under, might be best so I don't have a raw end. I've just got a bit of my reel coming off. I might just glue that down before that starts to unravel itself. I don't think it will, it seems to be pretty well adhered, but that's okay. We're about to start gluing anyway. I've got my little finger wipey container here. I might just move you up a tiny little bit. I'm just worried that I'm going to be going off camera. Actually, I'll keep my book down there while I am doing my gluing. So we'll start by doing our end pieces. So I'm going to glue. Just pop glue around mainly in that area where we did the cutting in. So that's like that. And then I'm going to put glue around the top here as well. So I'm just using my Yoo-hoo glue, which I find works pretty well on fabric. And it works generally best if you sit it down on the surface, see where your circle is drawn, and then you basically just want to smooth down the little cuts you've put in, and that will just help you to get that nice, and you want to just sort of pull it a little bit so you get like a nice taut drum surface. Not that we're going to be playing the drums on this, but you want it to look authentic. So just give that a good pull down, make sure it's just nicely adhered, but as you see the Yoo-hoo glue does a pretty good job. Then we're going to do the other end. This book has a sort of a wipeable cover, that's why I use it as my glue book, but I also do like to have my book of A to Z of embroidery around, even though I've got all my stitches. I don't know, they don't all always stay by head. I can watch my videos back again, but sometimes you don't like hearing your voice, although I can watch them on silent, I suppose. It's the funny thing for those of us that make videos, don't really love listening to our voices. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're having a lovely and gentle lead up to Christmas. Hopefully it's not too chaotic for you. I've got to get into Christmas baking this weekend. Filming this on Friday night. So as you can see, that's a nice little drum. But once you've got the other end on, just do an extra little pull down in case you've kind of loosened it all off in the process. And then we can put on this one. So again, I'm just going, and I'll try and go all the way out to the edges, just because that helps them to not run, because I'm not going to turn all the edges over. I'm not even sure if I probably will turn the end edge over. I didn't actually do that on this one and it was fine. So just going to put this around, and in fact I've just remembered something that I didn't do, but that's okay, we can just quickly do it now. So at this point you'll want to have a needle threaded, and I'm just going to use some of this nice coloured vintage crochet yarn, because you'll want to add your little hanger so you could either just glue the hanger in, but I do actually like to do a stitch to get my hanger in place. And so I'm just going to do a stitch in and out of the cardboard, which will give a really, although that didn't go in and out of the cardboard, that just went in and out of the calico. I need to pop myself over a little bit, there we go. And then work out what length you want it to be. So that's pretty good, I think, for me. And then I'll leave a little bit of a tail to be glued down into the, I could tie a knot, but I know the glue is going to actually do a good job of adhering that in place as well. So yeah, generally best to do that before you start gluing, but not the end of the world if you don't. In fact, I don't need all of that fabric. Save that bit for another day. And yeah, I don't think I need to worry about actually the, I suppose I can fold it over because I've got that extra little bit of fabric. We'll just need to add a bit more glue to it. Let's just do that. Luckily the Yoo-hoo glue sort of is, yeah, you can kind of move it around, reposition things, which is handy. So I'm just going to add a bit more glue down there, make sure everything's nice and gluey, add some glue to where I've folded over the end, and then we can glue down. You just want to join that nicely in, like that. Perfect. Just make sure your drum is still looking nice and taut. I notice it sort of picked itself up a little bit there. I'm just going to lift it up and then use my needle to push the calico down and pull the other fabric up. Just possibly in that process of putting the stitch in, I just disturbed it a little bit. So yeah, definitely do your hanger before you start sticking. You can do your hanger after you've added your calico. And then, yeah, but before you put on this decorative piece. So that's pretty good, I think. Little drum. And then we are going to, I'll put away my Yoo-hoo glue because we'll use our fabric glue for the next step. We're going to put on our braid. So if you had a really fine braid, you could just use that by itself. You could also use laces, for example. If you have some of this, I think this one came out of the little kit that I picked up, the sewing kit I picked up yesterday. You can use this sort of stretchy gold trim and just sort of, yeah, put some little couching stitches on that. Yeah, use whatever you've got. If you've got crazy laces like this, you could use some of that, for example, around the rim of it. So yeah, you can absolutely go crazy. I've got other trims like this that would look quite pretty on it, but I'll stick with this one, just make a second one like I made the other. But I'm actually just using half of it, unless I want to go crazy and put it, but no, I think I prefer the half. So just work out how much you need by holding your trim and running it around. And then I like to leave just a little bit at the end because sometimes you need to trim it just to get it to be a bit neater. And then I'm going to cut very carefully down the middle. I thought it was all going to come apart, but it actually held pretty well on the first one. So I thought this is a nice way to get double value out of my trims. I think because you put a bit of glue on it, it actually helps to hold it. So now we are going to put some glue And again, this is where you could do some stitching if you wanted to. You could stitch your trims onto your actual drum fabric. But this is the easy, quick version. This is the Friday night relaxing and crafting and getting some fun decorations on your tree. So I'm going to actually align it around from where so the back of the trim will go where the little hanger is, because that will be the back next to goes sort of onto the tree. It'll be up against the tree, so that'll be the end that you're happy to have looking a little bit not as neat as the front. So that's perfect. Now I'm going to use my little wipey face washer. Save on wet wipes, less waste in the environment. And let me just clean up that little bit of glue. So we'll just get that on there. I might just put a pin in just to hold that, although no, the pin's not going to push in without pulling the stuff out. So I'll just give it a firm little press, and we'll come back and put some stitches in there as well. But let's get our next piece of trim on. So again, just putting the glue down onto it. Put plenty of glue at the end because that's where it's got a raw bit. As you can see, it's just trying to unravel only at the end, but the body of it seems to hold, which is interesting. I'll have to take a new look at my trims. Others of them might be able to be cut. This is a very glitzy one, so it's nice to be using it because I haven't really used it, I don't think, in any of my stitcheries. I don't tend to go quite as glam, although I could in my burgundy bonheur piece. That's definitely got golds. So again, I'll put the endy pieces at the back and then just lay it around, work out which piece is less frayed. Just make sure it's sitting flush. Moves a little bit, just reposition it and let it kind of start to sit down. Don't worry too much because this glue will dry clear, so you won't actually be able to see it. Don't worry if there's any little endy bits coming off, we can just kind of get rid of those. And as I say, we'll put a few little sewing stitches in to just hold it, or if you weren't wanting to do any sewing stitches, you could just add some more glue until it's nicely holding. So I'll just tip those little endy bits into my bin, and I'll just give my book a bit of a wipe too, and my hands. Okay, so I think I'll just let that dry for a moment, and then we'll come back and do the next step in the process of putting some stitches in. But while that's happening, we can work on our little drumsticks. So can anyone guess what I made those out of? Some trusty toothpicks. I went downstairs and I went into our dining cupboard in our dining sort of dresser, and Alex is like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm just getting some drumsticks." So I am going to carefully, without flicking bits of wood around, just chop the ends off one of the ends. I can't see where those little bits went. In fact, that's made that a bit sticky. Let me just give it an even better wipe. I think probably because it's got built up glue over it. I haven't actually wiped this book down for a little while, so I think I'm actually taking off quite a few layers of glue in the process. Okay. Put that aside anyway and let that dry. Sorry, I just bumped you. So we've got our two little trimmed toothpicks. And then I'm going to grab my beads. Now you might not have beads that are the right size, but you can have a bit of a play around. But I found I had these Value Craft ones that have lovely golds in them, and the smaller size ones fit perfectly onto the tops and held there without needing anything to sort of hold them in place. So that's how I decided on those ones, because so the first ones that I found fitted. Now if you couldn't find beads to fit the top of them, it would be perfectly fine just to have them as is, but I just think it looks, yeah, it's a bit of fun. And then we're going to need some wire, and this is where I'm using the wire that I found in the sewing kit that I got from the gift of the nature strip yesterday. It's been great hearing in the comments about what you have in your parts of the world. I was actually wondering would people kind of frown upon it a bit or something in the comments, but it was nice to hear that others, yeah, are equally thrifty and see the good in being able to reuse and repurpose something that is junk to someone else. So that was nice. So this is starting to get a bit tackier, which is good, and holding a bit more in place. I'll put my beads out of the way. We've got our wire there, but let's just put our little stitches in to hold the trim in place. Get my black thread. I'm just using a regular black cotton. You could really use black or gold or whatever. I'm just using a very utilitarian. Don't need my needle out. So I haven't made these little drums before, but I think they're incredibly sweet. So this has been actually a really good thing to make me, yeah, sort of put all my ideas into practice. Not just have the ideas in the lead up to Christmas and then find that it's Christmas Eve and you haven't done that and you're still wrapping up homemade gifts and things like that. So it's been great. And I hope you're enjoying, yeah, the crafts as well. Hopefully you might have tried some. Do let me know in the comments, or if you've got your own crafts. It's been great seeing Rachel and Sarah's. Sarah's little houses were amazing. Wonder if I haven't checked whether she's posted her next installment video on those. It was definitely a big project. So I'm just putting some stitches just to hold the trim here. If you were wanting to do this entirely stitched, you could go around and just put little stitches around the top of it. I'll probably just put one little stitch in just to kind of anchor the braid to the calico. Another stitch in there. And then I'll just put a few more across here just to hold and sort of meld the ends together. The black is good because it just, yeah, sort of blends in with the braid. So that's pretty good. So I think I can just tie that off. I'll just put a little knotty McKnot in. And snipperoo that off nice and close. You can see you get some little goldy thready ends. You can just trim any little pokey bits out. Make sure you don't trim off your actual hanger. You want to leave that intact. And then on the bottom we'll do the same. I might just get myself a bit more black thread. If you had nice ribbons, you could use that instead of fabric as well. So lots of possibilities. And for the hangers, yeah, you could use wire, you could use yeah, thread like I have. You could use a nice piece of ribbon. Again, possibilities are pretty endless. Oops. Yeah, this definitely needs a bit of stitching just to hold it in, because we are getting a little bit of fraying happening here. But that's okay, we'll just get some stitches in. I might actually put a stitch through the calico as well. Just oops, because we're getting even the bits caught in it. Let's just get this sitting down a bit more. Sorry, I keep going a little bit off camera, apologies for that. Just trying to tame the ends of the trim where it's just trying to come undone a little smidgen. At this point I'd probably be inclined, if I was doing this not on camera, just to add a little bit more glue, but I'm going to see if I can just get the needle and thread to hold it in place and anchor it down. I think I'll be able to get it cohesive. Just putting some long stitches across just to kind of, yeah, anchor it together, and then we'll just, you could potentially at the ends use a little bit of nail varnish or something just to, or put a bit more glue on the ends to stop them fraying. It didn't happen on the first one, but it's probably just something to be aware of, depending if you are doing a sort of a cut trim like I did, just to make sure you don't have any problems. And I'm going to put a few extra stitches over just to make sure this trim's not going to sort of unwind itself. So I'll just go and put some couching stitches over the trim and into the calico, just like that. And then I'll just trim off our little slightly fluffy bit. There we go, and I'll just put a few more little stitches across from here to here, across from here to here. Okay, and then we'll just tie a knot there, snipperoo nice and close. There we go. And then let's put our needle away, put our threads to the side. Braid's just moved a little bit, but even with the glue it's still sort of able to be moved. Just make sure you're happy with how everything is looking, but I think that looks nice, even though where it was starting to fray, it's come together nice and cohesive. Lots of little goldy flecks on the surface of the bench and now sticking to my thumbs, but that's all right. Now let's get our piece of wire. So what I'm going to do with the wire is I'm going to make sure it doesn't get caught on the hanger, and I'm going to bring it around from the back. So I'm just going to get it to sit flush against the upper trim at the back, like that. And then I'm going to do a twist at the front when it's a bit more even though. Let's try that again. Let's get our hanger out of the way. Let's make sure it's sort of evenly, so at the halfway point at the back, and then bring it round to the front and put a twist in place. And at this point you can move it up if it's sort of sitting a bit further down than where you want it. And again, I'll just get rid of some of my little tufty bits from the trim. There we go. And so once you've got a twist in place, you can actually just use your drumsticks to just ease it up all the way around, just so that it's right up against the trim. And then you're going to put your two drumsticks in place, and you can use one bit to wrap around one of them, another bit of wire to wrap around the other. You can then put a twist on the front of the two bits of the wire. So this is just a very nice fine, I think it's probably like a jewellery wire or something. It was just in this, in the sewing kit that I got, which had all sorts of wonderful treasures in it. So I'm then just going to put a hook over each of them. You just want to be anchoring them really. I'm not going to need all of this wire, so I'll have a little bit left. I'll just put another one underneath them. And that's probably enough, so I'll probably just do a twist of the wire against itself. A few little twists. Just want to get it nice and tight, and then I will just cut that off and twist that underneath out of the way. And then you can just position your drumsticks to how you want them to look. And then there is your beautiful, and you can move them around because they are just on the wire to get them sort of at the front. And then when it's hanging on the tree, I won't hang it sort of that way because it will hang down. So you'll hang it up and you'll look up at it, and that's what you'll be seeing as you look up at it. Your beautiful little drummer boy drum kit. So I think that's a really fun, sweet little craft. I hope you make some of these. I'd love to see what trims or ribbons or other decorations you do, what you use for your little drum. But a fun upcycling idea for a wrapping tube and a lovely little decoration to add to your Christmas tree. So thank you so much. That's a half-hour craft, including a bit of faffing around. And I'll see you hopefully tomorrow with another craft or with something for Advent. Thank you, everyone. Bye.